Sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is, the Sea of Tiberias, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover Festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up, "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself.
Despite technological advancements and globally increasing food production, the modern world continues to struggle with hunger and scarcity. The main reasons for this include inequalities in resource distribution, armed conflicts, and climate change. Additionally, conflicts destroy infrastructure and block the delivery of humanitarian aid. Some politicians and corporations, in an effort to optimize their profits, limit food production, further exacerbating the hunger problem. God has endowed humans with free will, and individuals can choose between doing good or evil. Reflecting on the role of God in the context of contemporary hunger and scarcity issues can be understood through the lens of faith, which emphasizes God's presence and action even in the face of challenging experiences. For many believers, God acts through people, inspiring them to cooperate, share resources, and help those in need. God does not inspire evil deeds. The good is visible in the actions of many humanitarian and charitable organizations motivated by the biblical message to combat poverty and hunger. Today, we face one of the most famous passages in the Gospel. It describes a spectacular miracle by Jesus, the multiplication of bread and fish. In this sign, there is more than just an act of divine power. It is a beautiful story of God's never-ending care for every aspect of our lives. Let's consider the scene. We see a crowd of thousands gathered to listen to Jesus. People are thirsty not only for His word, but also for physical nourishment. And what does our Lord do? He does not send them away, nor does He tell them to fend for themselves. He sees, understands, and acts. From 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, He multiplies food for several thousand gathered. Equally important, He also gives, both then and now, the unwavering certainty that God knows and meets our needs, even the ordinary mundane ones. The first truth we want to explore today is that God knows our needs. Did you know that before you even think of your need, God already knows about it? Our Lord is not an indifferent observer of our lives. He is our Father, who watches over every aspect of our existence with extraordinary care and attention. The second great truth is that God exceeds our expectations. Have you ever wondered why, after the miracle of multiplication, 12 baskets of leftovers remained? It is very likely that at the time, the disciples were eating the multiplied bread. They were unaware of what had happened. Only after collecting the 12 baskets of leftovers could reflection and sheer disbelief come. For me, this is a powerful symbol of the abundance of God's blessings. In His kingdom, there is no place for minimalism, only for abundance. The third lesson is an encouragement to trust and cooperate with God. Jesus, by performing the miracle, involved His disciples in the action. This is a reminder to us that although we have limited resources, in God's hands they can become a tool to accomplish great things. Our small, often seemingly insignificant actions, combined with God's power, can yield unimaginable results. Jesus poses a provocative question to His disciples. Where can we buy enough bread for these people? The miraculous events described in the Gospels, such as the multiplication of bread and fish, are for believers a sign that God has the power to transcend human limitations and satisfy needs. Thus, God's action is perceived not only as direct intervention but also as inspiration for people to act in the spirit of love, compassion, and justice. In this sense, every concrete action to reduce suffering and injustice can be seen as an expression of God's action through people who have decided to say yes to God and help meet the basic needs of the helpless neighbors. In the context of these truths today, I want to encourage you with the words of Christ. Do not be afraid. In the face of difficulties, in the face of daily challenges, remember that we have a God who understands our needs better than we do. We have a God who is not only open to our needs, but also abundantly satisfies them like a loving Father. May this certainty strengthen our faith. May it bring peace to our hearts. As we face challenges, we are not alone. We have a God who is our strength and shield, our greatest provider of all goods. Let us entrust our lives, dreams, and desires to Him. For in His hands, even what seems small and insignificant can become an instrument of miracle. Those who listened to His word were fed. Let us approach this truth with faith and an open heart. May God bless us all.